Sky Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio. Welcome back, everybody, and we are doing a little wrap-up on expedition that happened here mid-September 2021. And I had Erik Awakening Man and my other guest who is with me right now, and that is William Lunsford. So this is awesome. I'm not just doing the usual, hey, William, let's talk about your research area and show your pictures. You know, it's like, I drug you up here to freeze and be scared here in the mountains and go camp out with a Sasquatch up here. So let's hear all about it from William. Welcome to the show again, buddy.
Hey, buddy, glad to be here with you. Thank you for having me in here. Something I'm glad to talk about. I had a good time and something I'd never experienced before. When I left Texas, it was like 94 degrees. When I got there, it was not 94 degrees, but it was definitely a culture shock based on what I was used to when I was flying over, coming into Missoula Airport there, and I was looking out at all the terrain and stuff, all the different mountain ranges that surround where you are, and I thought, oh my gosh, if they can't live here, they can't live anywhere, you know. So it was really something special for me to get up there and visit with that, and with what we did there, going to your house. Very few people have the opportunity to 5 miles from their house do like we did on the first night before we actually went out to go up into the woods and actually go a miniature Bigfoot hunt, and where Erik actually went out the next morning before we woke up and was able to record video of a Sasquatch howling up there off of that ridge. It was really strange because all the deer that were in town when I first got there, as I told you, there were 3 giant bucks, and these were whitetails. They weren't just muleys, they were whitetails, all of them about 250 to 275 pounds apiece, from anywhere from a 9 to 11 point rack, and over there grazing in the city park. And these weren't trained deer, they had just come down off the mountains. But then
no, actually they live in town year round. They didn't come down off the mountains. They're born here, live here, die here. There's some giant bucks that live in this town. You usually don't see them except late at night. And these guys, apparently this little pack of big bucks wander around this neighborhood during the day, because I saw them a few times. And when you got here and parked next to the park, you jumped out. I was standing on the porch watching you, and you whip out your phone and you're going to take a picture, and apparently you got a blurry one, so you're all like, damn it, I got it, those things are right there and I couldn't get a decent picture. Well, here's the good news. About 2 hours after you left, they all showed up again, so I filmed them from the porch, so I got good video. So we'll just show that right now. Big old buck standing there grazing, and this car wants to turn or something. You can see what it's doing. And he's just looking at him. Yeah, that guy's one of the ones that showed up when Will pulled up here in his vehicle. Him and 2 other big bucks. And he's just hanging out here eating. I was gonna go run across the street. And there's the other one over there in the park. They're both over there munching away. This is my my nature observation deck, also known as a porch. I'm gonna sit right here and watch the deer. Oops. And as usual, I don't have a tripod. Sorry. I'll stabilize that. Anyway, there's some deer. I'm standing on my porch filming them. There's my wet tent from this weekend. Still wet. Oh, there's the Sasquatch we caught this weekend. And yeah, actually, Erik Johnson brought this cool little guy with him. And really neat. I'm going to paint him up. Erik wants me to paint him up, so I'm going to paint him up and make him look cool. Like, he already looks really cool. So anyway, there you go. Talk to you later.
There, I tried to get pictures, and when I would, she would walk over behind the deer, so I couldn't get just clear pictures of the deer without sticking her in there. And I'm like, woman, would you please move? But so that kind of messed that up. But that was one of the coolest things to see, quality deer that size that very few people even see here in the South, see that throughout their whole lifetime. There's 3 of them grazing out there across from your front yard. So that was pretty neat.
It was the same thing for me when I moved here, because I'm from northern Minnesota, where the whitetails are big, but they're not giant like they are here. And those, yeah, in Minnesota, any of those three would have been, huge trophy buck. And here
Exactly.
it's like, no, those are just average deer. You should see how big the big deer get.
And something else about those deer, as you and Eric and I drove up there that first little rise. Most of the deer that were in town, what we see, like 40 on about a 3 mile trip up there to the top of the mountain, and then once we got towards the top of the mountain, all the deer were down below. There had to be a reason for that. I'm real suspicious and it wasn't. A lot of times in the other places they'll come down from the cold weather to be where the food was, but there wasn't any snow on those peaks or anything else like that. There had to be another reason that we had those animals in town like that, and that was the first thing that really intrigued me. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be something, and it was.
Yeah, and don't forget the other important point. We went up there because this was a place where I had filmed Mr. Big, or I should say Jeff got him on video.
Right.
Back in, was it 2016, 17? And I had never been able to get up there the right time of the year, the right time of night to get a comparison shot. And here we were with the team going, hey, it's the right time of year and it's the right time of night. Let's go up there. So as we're a little bit late. So I'm going like, hey, can you guys make it up this slope? Because I don't want to walk another quarter mile and go around running out of time. I'm going to go straight up this freaking cliff. And you're like, yeah, I can make it. And Eric's like, yeah, I can do it. So Eric's in better shape than both of us. He was the one that was behind me. And as I came up, I went, hey, there's a track right here. And I just kept going because I want to get to the top. And then a little bit later, I hear Eric yell, where's the track? And I turn around and I look and I go, I think you're right next to it. It's on your right. And he goes, oh, yeah, here it is. So he stopped, took a picture of it. And then I ran up to the top and got the comparison video, and you finished slogging all the rest of the way up there. But point being, there we are, not on the trail. I'm going, okay, I'm going to straight line it up to this spot where I've seen these guys before. And on the straight line up to the spot where I've seen them before, well, there's a 17-inch track.
All right. What was cool about that was they don't realize what we go through as researchers there. Just that little trip right there, which was the easiest part of the trip that we had as far as for navigating the terrain. Everything we did was from 60 degrees to almost 80 degrees. Like you said, it was almost straight up. I didn't have my shoes tied because I'd been on the blasted airplane there, so I didn't have my hiking boots tied. And man, I was not prepared for just that little hour and a half, 2 hour jump that we had. But man, you and Eric were, bouncing through there, like you done had your extra dose of Wheaties. So, but it was cool to see the track like that. When I finally got there and a track just right there, and it was just amazing, just right there off the road where we could hear cars the whole time as it tracked through. But yet there was that Sasquatch activity there.
I know you guys are going to find some good stuff, and I'm looking forward to hearing all the stories from you guys, and so be safe out there. Don't go get raped by a Wookiee.
Ha! Weird. She's huge. Yeah. Well, not huge, but
yeah, she's
kind of skinny actually for a mama.
She must be in the process of shedding her fur.
Mom's wandering around somewhere.
There's another one back in there. Mom's
Okay, back up in Patty Canyon. That's where Mr. Big was. It is the same time of year. Pretty much same time of day. We got a little bit overcast today, so there's no light on the tree, which was the original shot, light on the tree. And over here on the right side, there is a shadow back there. It is not the same shape and size. I'll walk a little bit forward. That's a whole bunch of brush that's back there. Is that the object? It doesn't look like it. Looks like the lower part of object that we filmed. And during that sequence, Jeff was filming it, and he just kept walking along the ridge. So let's film that. See if we can spot anything else. I'm up here by myself. I got Erik and William Lunsford with me, but they're flatlanders, so you can see how steep that slope is. They're still walking up it. By the time they get here, it'll probably be too dark to film, so I just went ahead of them. There's another spot over here. Where he filmed another object. I'm hoping the trees are still here so I can line up where it was. The sun's going down over Missoula. Used to have a lot of tree structures and stuff up here that don't really have anymore. Is it a stump? That looks like a stump. Okay. So anyway, there we go. The same area that Jeff filmed several years ago. This time of year, this time of night. I'm not seeing said objects. I'll be right back. I'll take one more look at that spot again. So here we got a comparison shot. We've got Erik being kind enough to do the comparison stand-in work. Erik is 6'6". We don't know exactly where the subject was standing. Could have been considerably further back. Just in case you want to walk back another 5-10 feet, this hillside's really steep, so the further back you're standing, the shorter you're getting. And now get with the stump in front of you again. See, now his head's just barely peeking over it. And that's probably closer to where the subject in question was standing. There's a pathway right there. That's the likely spot. So Erik's at 6'6", his head barely peeking over that stump. And that object looked like its armpit was at stump level. So, whoops, excuse me. As you can see, this is nothing. It's just wall of brush. Is that something? Yeah. Oh, anyway, so there you go. There's your comparison shot. You got 6'6" Erik standing probably right about where the subject in question that we filmed about 5 years ago was. And like he says, there's a game trail right there, so I'm going to go down and check it out to see if they got some tracks on it.
It's you know, it has a lot to do with where they want to hang around and where they cross roadways and stuff too. And that area we were in is at the very
lower edge of the Patty Canyon recreational area where
Yeah.
people go out to hike and walk their dogs and stuff. And we were on the lower end of it right next to the private property where there really aren't any trails. That's why they're hanging around there. There's no people in that part of it.
That was one thing, as I was talking about, when I noticed from the plane when I was flying in, you know, we were up there and I was looking at the Bitterroot Mountains. Well, anybody that knows anything about their Sasquatch history knows the Bitterroot Mountains is where the story from Teddy Roosevelt's Wilderness Hunter and Bauman, the hunter with the hunter who actually got eaten in half up there. So that right there was really something to see too, because as I've said before, and you have too, not all Sasquatch are the same. They don't have the same disposition. They don't all look the same. They're not all built the same. But for that right there, those Sasquatch, even when I ask you, are we going up? You said no. For number one, we don't want to get killed. They have their own dispositions in the way that they act towards people. So, but still to see that right there, that's a historic spot and something I've read about ever since I started researching Bigfoot. So,
well, you didn't actually get to go to it, but you got to fly over it and see the lay of the land. And when you're flying over it, looking at it, you're going, I don't want to go there.
I wanted my pilot to be sure he had his license updated.
Yeah, if you're going to crash, make sure you get to the far side of the mountain first, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Not on this side. Well, it is, I do a little bit of research here on the eastern slopes of the Bitterroots, but I stay off the west side, and that's where the Bauman and Jessup incident happened. And Kelly Shaw, who pretty much covers the whole Rocky Mountains, same thing. He won't go into that area because we both know too many reports of people going missing there, people getting attacked. Even Kevin Lang, when he was talking about Glag Saga, he was motorbiking over on that side of the Bitterroot Range, and he kind of just quit going there because every time you go through there, you get rocks thrown at him. Right. They're just not friendly and don't want to put up with you, so better to not chance it. And then you go, a few miles east of there, you got the Sapphire Mountain Range, and the ones that we have that we're interacting with up there, they're just perfectly mellow. As long as you're all nice and play by the rules, they haven't got any problem with you.
I drove up the freeway there to where you are in Montana, and that was a thrill. I mean, I'd seen William Lunsford on the shows that you'd done in the past. I'd heard his stories. I'd heard that he's got these amazing pictures, and I'd seen some of them on your show. And I thought, man, this is going to be exciting. I'm going to get to be with Duke Sullivan and William Lunsford, and I'm going to go camping with these guys, and I'm going to hear stories, and I'm going to see pictures. And I was like a kid in a candy store. I don't know if you could tell. I was jacked, man. I had a lot of adrenaline going into that weekend. Trust me.
You seemed a little excited. Yeah, the first night that we were kind of stuck here getting everything ready to go, we were all sitting around late at night watching Spaced Out Radio, and I was in chat, and I said, hey, we're getting ready to go on an expedition here. And Dave came on and gave us all the thumbs up, go ahead. And then the next morning, before me and William actually got around to actually doing anything, Erik, who's Mr. Early Morning, decided he was going to go run up the mountain. And we had already been up there, the previous night? Right before dark, we got up there. And we went to this area where I'd filmed Mr. Big because I wanted to get comparison shots, same time of year, same time of day. Let's see if there's a big black shadow there. Spoiler, there wasn't. But on the way up the steep slope, and I'm leading the way because I know where the hell we're going, Erik's right behind me. Actually, you were in the lead a little bit. And then I got ahead of him because I was trying to get up to the top of the ridge before it got too dark. And as I'm going up, I'm like, hey, there's a track right here. And I get a little further up the ridge, and now Erik's right where I was standing. He's going, where is it? And I go, I think it's to your right. And yep, there's a track right there. So we get up there, we check all this stuff out, go back, get back into town and everything. Nothing else extraordinary happens. But the next morning, he's up in the same area by himself because he was up there with us the night before. And I told him how me and two of my friends here locally have heard this really weird call up there that doesn't even match with the other ordinary Sasquatch calls that people record all over the place. And guess what Mr. Early Morning gets? He got a recording of it. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, that was a thrill, and I was actually nervous because that sound was right up on the other side of this little mountain peak, and where I was, that was less than 100 yards away.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it was very close. But I couldn't see it, and it couldn't see me because I was on the other side of the mountain. But but I drove around for like an hour up there, up these little forest roads, trying to find a little area where I can get out and walk around and look for. I was looking for tree structures, is what I was doing. Because even when you and I, William, went there that first night, one of the things that really was interesting to me that you mentioned is all the deer. There's a massive quantity of deer that were down in the neighborhood. As we're driving through the neighborhood, getting to this area, you've got 3 or 4 sets of deer just about at every other house.
Yep.
You know, here we got this beautiful forest right up the road, but these deer are down here. So I'm wondering, well, why are the deer down here? I was a little suspicious, thinking that, well, maybe they're down here because they're trying to stay away from the Bigfoot. I don't know.
Well, there aren't really much of anything in the way of predator reports from up there in Patty Canyon. You very rarely get a report of anything there, which is interesting. You contrast that from the other side of town where the Rattlesnake Wilderness area is. It's 3 miles away. And there's constant reports of people seeing grizzlies and mountain lions. You go over here 3 miles on the other side of town, there aren't any. But there's tons of deer.
I was just maybe losing my night vision. So I lay back down like that, and man, pretty soon it's about 2 or 3, 4 more minutes, and all of a sudden I hear one little pebble roll down the hill. And man, I leaned up and looked at that. And as I'm sitting there looking, I said, by then my night vision is perfect. And I'm seeing this shadow about 2.5 feet above my roof on that Z71, walking down the edge of my truck, looking up and down, doing this deal like that. And he goes to the corner where my
You were seeing
windshield
this through the tent or out? Or in...
Yeah, through the door of the tent. I mean, there's not even a screen right there.
Oh, okay. So you can live. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I've got the whole thing. So
you got real. Okay.
Yep. So I'm sitting there watching this guy pulling this crap. I'm like, oh my gosh. So and I thought, I'm fixing to hear my windshield bust open. He's going to get that food I've got in the front seat. Anyway, there's 2 guys right there in pup tents, and so I thought, if I lock this thing up out there, they're going to get hurt. And then plus, we all had guns. So I let him walk on by, and wherever I did, then I lit up the outside of that spotlight. Man, he took off like a turpentine cat, man. Well, then he comes back about 5 minutes later, right outside our tent, with those 2 rocks. Whack, and whacks them together. And then,
he did?
Oh, yeah. My buddy's got it on audio.
So that was close by, too.
Yeah, I mean, he's just right there, like from me to you, just nothing but a piece of canvas between us. And
he just took 2 rocks and clanged them together.
Yeah, just as hard as he could, just to mess with
Wow.
it. And so, anyway.
You know, you hit him with a flashlight.
Oh, yeah, so I went up real quick, and he heard me get up. Well, then he took off back down the trail, crosses the river.
And you could hear him running away?
Yeah, you could hear him running away.
Wow, that's cool.
For 30 minutes. He's like, whoop, whoop, whoop.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you record any of that?
Well, my buddy's got some of that recorded as well on his recorder on the whoop call. So
That'd be fun to hear that.
Oh, it was cool, man.
I love the whoops.
I've got one here, the lady sent
More
me.
than likely we'll hear some of that this weekend. They do whoops up there.
I love it.
Never hear them scream or roar, but they do whoops and other vocals. Sometimes they make weird sounds that are like, what the fuck? Where did you hear that? We had one across the river from us. Either he had an empty lighter fluid can, those metal ones that are like,
yeah.
and he was going boop boop.
Oh, just crinkling it.
Yeah. Or he was making the sound. Because we heard that like 3 times, and then here came a bunch of deer across the river into camp and hang out with us. And they're like, Mike, was that your lighter fluid container? And he's like, I don't think so. And then we both heard it from across the river, and one of the deer went like this, ears straight up, looking across the river. And we're like, yeah, that isn't ours.
I love that shit.
Let's see if this is, I've got some whoops on here. That's just coyotes there. Not yet. Right there. Come on. There's one.
That was a nice one.
Yeah.
Wow. So they try to mimic the dog a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, whenever they make vocalizations, if there's coyotes nearby, it sets the fuckers off, and it'll also set off the local dogs.
It does.
And then
That's
you can't
exactly
get a
right.
decent audio recording.
For
'cause
some
all the other
reason.
fucking dogs are going off. Until they get
There's
pissed
no
off
dogs
and
where we're
roar.
going, though, I
They
assume.
get pissed off and roar, then everything shuts the fuck up. That's the end, Ben.
Are you familiar with hogs very much?
A little bit.
I've got a video here. I'll show you. It's one ass kicker. I sent it to Duke last time.
You know, it's funny you mentioned the rocks too. Something else there that I noticed, the whole thing, the dynamic between Texas and up there in Montana, everything was bigger. You had boulders, I mean, the size of houses. The animals right there, even the generic animals like the deer were so much bigger. The trees, were at least twice as tall as basically anything that we have down here. And when them things throw rocks up there, the rocks they're throwing at you up there are like mini boulders down here. If you get a rock the size of a cantaloupe, you're lucky as a rule. We've had one throw a big boulder at us one time off the Sulphur River, but other than that, it's just basically rocks that you and I could throw. But up there where yours was, let's say if that joker hit you, you was going to be in some serious. He's going to be in a serious world of hurt. So it was just really amazing to see all that stuff. The difference in what they had, and to imagine the Sasquatch as they were where we went on our camping deal, they were so laid back. These down here in Texas and Arkansas and around Oklahoma, they tend to have such a bad attitude, but y'all's were just so cool. They sit there and they have their sentries, and they sit there and they communicated with each other. We heard them through that, but still, that they didn't have the aggressive attitude. You and I saw, I think that last afternoon, we might have seen one. I'm almost 99% positive it was, and when you went running up the hill, and I thought, oh man, that's not always a good thing to run up the hill. It's a Sasquatch. I did it one time towards a gugway, and
that was a gugway though.
Yeah,
and these guys know that I can't run very fast even under the best conditions, and I'm trying to run up a mountain. So
Right.
I ain't got a snowflake's chance in hell of catching them. If they were laying on their stomach, baby crawling, they could get away from me because I'm so damn slow. And I'm sure they had more than one watching me, so I'm sure they found that very amusing. Oh, look, isn't that cute? He's going to try and run up the hill. We'll be 10 miles away before he gets halfway up. Ha ha. But see, I wasn't filming it. You were. And according to you, whatever the weird object was actually did move and disappeared while we were doing this insane maneuver.
Yeah, it was brown from where I was looking at. I was looking at that and maybe saw one kind of to the side on another. Then all of a sudden, as you go running up, and I'm trying to get a better picture of you, I make 2 or 3 steps. By the time I look up again, the brown had already moved, and what we were looking at was totally black. And then you didn't get to find it, but I'd almost almost bet you one of my favorite sayings is, you know what you saw. Well, after doing this for as many years as I have, I know that there was something up there. It could have not been a Bigfoot, but there was something there that has definitely got my attention. And when you went running up there, like I said, it did move. So whatever it was, we can't say, but I know it was one of the things of the trip that really is going to be and stuck in my mind for the rest of the time. I got a picture, but so far I haven't been able to filter it to where we can get anything just definitive out of it. But man, it was really a great area right there. One thing I noticed about where we camped and when we went up there, all the amount of hunters that were coming through there. Well, there you had the wildlife there for food. We had elk, we saw deer, we saw moose. And
We
those things.
filmed moose when we were coming out again. Usually you have deer wandering through camp. Now there's moose all over the place up there.
They said the moose have basically taken over up there. So to see that area, like I said, it was really something that I was privileged. I didn't go up there, as I told you, I didn't go up there to try to show you what a great Bigfoot hunter I am, because I'm not. Like I said, the animals down here tend to have more to do with it than what I do, but I went up there to learn, and I did. When I go to an area down here, I don't immediately start calling, although I will after a while if I don't get any activity, try to elicit a response. But those up there, you just pull up and you sit for a while, and pretty soon you can. I said you hear the little noises that they make that you know is, hey, that's a little bit strange right there, especially the whistling that we had.
Yeah, that one weird noise. Well, we had off and on wind that weekend, even though it wasn't really precipitation problems. It was fairly cold, and it would be calm for a while, and then the wind would pick up, and you'd hear these weird sounds off in the distance, and it sounded kind of like trees bending or rubbing together or something. Mm-hmm. And then we started realizing we were hearing it from more than one direction.
Right.
And then we realized that there wasn't any wind blowing and we were still hearing it. And we're like, okay, what the heck is making this weird noise? And Erik 3 times upon hearing it tried to run across the road to see where the noise is coming from.
Right.
And as soon as he got over there, it stopped. And when we decided to go for the little hike over there on the other side of the little slough over there, as soon as we went over there, it stopped for like 2 hours until we came back. Then it started again. And remember what happened first thing in the morning when you got up? Oh, it's bright sunny day. I'm going to go walk across the road. What happened, William?
The very first I walk over there, there's this grassy glade sitting right there, and all of a sudden, just as loud as it can be, a tree knock. And then, just the one time I looked around, I'm like, okay, what am I going to see? I never got to see the source of that tree, but it was so loud and distinct.
And dead still. There wasn't any
resonated
wind,
off those mountains like that.
Yeah. And so it echoed. Yeah. It was like really obvious. One knock. Oh, hey, William. Bonk.
and after that, I was looking for some bigger firewood for us, because we had that 22-degree night, so we used most of our firewood, and so I was kind of content to come back with just little handfuls of firewood until I decided whether that Bigfoot was going to come look me up or not. But it was just so crisp and so clear up there, what we had, and so it was.
So yeah, in the morning we're hunting for big wood. We're not hunting for Bigfoot, we're hunting for big wood. Duke's got a hold of a 10-footer at least, maybe a 12-footer. I'd say those claws on that thing got to be a good 3 feet long.
Have a big stick to wood knife.
And William here's got a little woodlet. Instead of a squatchlet, that's a woodlet. A little junior. He's got a junior. Yeah. In a past life, those trees were probably Bigfoot, and it's another sentient form. Now, when you guys get down here, I want you, and I know you've seen it already, but see this long tree that's pinned up here? How did the hell that happen?
I saw it yesterday. I thought for sure that's
what the hell's going on here?
They said they did that last year and had it right between 2 trees. It actually fell, but I think he probably came back and stuck it there. If it landed on that point like that.
It had to be stuck there, because look at the bottom here. I mean, what? It didn't come out of that end. So I mean, somebody had to put it up there, and the roots are up there.
Oh yeah.
Somebody put that there, brother.
Yeah, we filmed it right when it happened.
Really?
Like I said last night, we parked right here. We went out there. When we came back, that was in between those trees, about 30 feet up. Now it just fell down the last year. But yeah, nothing's missing up here. Well, we were there for 2 hours. Some took that fucking piece of tree and shoved it in between the 2 other trees there, horizontally about 30 feet up.
Fuck, it's wild.
And we got the video.
I'd say that's evidence to me right there. I can't think of any other reason that would be there.
How did it land perfectly in between the other 2 trees with the trunk?
It's impossible. It's impossible.
And I said if it would have landed on.
And there's no roots anywhere. It had to be put there. It didn't fall or break anywhere around the area.
That's what he said that is. That the thing was, it would have broken. It would have landed point down.
The area is beautiful. I got to say, I mean, Utah that are beautiful. There's obviously parts of California and Arizona, but every state has its unique, majestic quality. And where we ended up going camping in that area, it had to me the most majestic vibe to it, and the feeling of, okay, I love big trees. I love tall trees. I love the rivers running through the area there, and you've got all the different colors, and to me it felt like that was real camping. And I thought, well, if there's Bigfoot here, this is definitely the place they would be. I just got that sense. Even, I mean, had you not taken me there and I'd stumbled into that spot, I would have probably intuitively felt like this seems like a squatchy area to
me. Yeah. That's what all my friends that I've had show up from different parts of the country and go up there with me too. As soon as they get in that valley, they're like, they're all over the place up here, aren't they? And I'm like, yeah. They could just tell as soon as they get in that valley. It's like, oh my God. I can see why they're living around here. Well, you can't hardly take a step in the woods without stepping on a prey animal's track. 3 different kinds of deer, moose, elk, bighorn sheep, mountain goats. No, there's nothing for him to eat up there. And mysteriously, you never see really any predator tracks up there. Just lots of Bigfoot tracks.
Well, and then what we would do, as you probably discussed in other episodes, is we'd get up in the morning, we'd have our coffee or whatever, do our little, breakfast thing. And then we would all get up and we would walk into the forest. I mean, we'd walk across the road, the dirt road, and then we'd walk down this little dirt path for a little while. But then we'd cut into the forest where we were literally walking through the forest where there was no trail. We were off grid. And I was just trusting you. I'm just thinking, I'm sure he knows where we're going, but I wouldn't go this way if I was by myself. That's what I was thinking. I was just glad that I was with you and William, and who was the other guy? There was Hawk was there, and there was another guy. Mike? Was it Mike?
Mike was there. Hawk was there. Yep.
Yeah. So that was, and so
we had Animal. Hawk's brother was also there. That leads to Hawk and Animal.
Get any kind of contact, like you said, a jack to jack it backwards where it falls. This is pretty cool, though.
It's nice.
Gotta be something pretty in these rocks right here. Those some big ass table rocks here, man.
Sorry. Over here too. There's a lot of timber up here. It's just laying on the ground. Look at this one up here.
Tree. It's still good being out in the woods. But...
Oh, look at that one. That big ass rock just sitting straight up there.
Yep.
That's kind of trippy. That's like a megalith.
Stonehenge.
Yeah. There is a little Stonehenge up there. See a bunch of rocks up there. Look at this tree right here. I don't know if that's anything.
Yeah.
Look at that, just sitting in there like that. That's kind of strange.
Weird. And look how it's wrapped up over that, like a.
It was stuck in there. It
Yeah.
didn't fall in there. It was weaved in there.
Sure was weaved in there.
That's interesting.
And it's also stripped, so you've got.
And if somebody made that as a walking stick, they wouldn't leave it there because that's a nice walking stick.
It's almost like a shepherd's hook.
Yeah, interesting.
Trail going right down through yonder.
Oh, I see it down there.
I don't know if that's natural or not. It's kind of, with all that foliage, kind of hard to believe it fell behind.
Let me look at that. I'll zoom in on that. It's pretty nicely formed.
Yeah, yeah. And then anyway, so you're going out there, and then you took us to where the tree structures were, and I'm looking at these things, and I'm trying to analyze them to think. In my head, I'm thinking, okay, is there any way possible that these things fell here, or they were placed here by forest guys? Or I mean, I try to debunk my own. What I'm seeing is, right away, my thinking is there's no way that humans did this, but I've got to at least give myself the chance to try to debunk what I'm thinking. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not a skeptic, but I just don't want to jump to conclusions. But what we saw from what you showed me, several areas with massive TP structures that I'm sure you've shown in previous.
All right, so we came down from where the Super X was, keyword was, and come over here to check out on the Mega TP. There it is. And I'm pretty sure there's been more trees added to it. There's that arch, but that tree went that way. And then of course, this one's always just interesting because it's just the compiling of different trees and branches all in awkward positions. Don't mind me if I trip. And it's just stuff like this that's just weird and cool. I'm sure with the wind we're getting one of these days, stuff like this is just gonna collapse. It is just really cool. I'll have to review some more footage, so I don't remember that one before. That would have had to have been if those are there, but it's just really cool. Calling in the Sasquatch. So we're up here close to where the Super X was. Looks like toes, the heels about 14 inches. So that'd be about a 7-foot juvenile.
It was, and then we had the later on there we had a couple of trees that were pushed over across the road from us there.
I was trying to remember, was that the first day we were there, or was it the second day?
It was the second day, I believe.
It was the second day, okay.
Second day, And
because I know the first day we were there, they started making that peculiar noise, and then we kind of went, where's this noise coming from? And now was it it was the first day we went over there and walked the ridgeline, wasn't it?
Right.
And I waited until afternoon.
Sure.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. Normally they aren't making noise during the day.
Right.
And we're sitting there in camp like a lot longer than we should, and they're making more and more and more noise, and it's getting more and more regular and ramping up. And I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, and everybody's getting bored going, when are we going to go somewhere? And I'm like, well, I'm waiting for the sun to get in the right position so we can see that ridge line really good.
Right.
And me and William are going to walk up it and see if we can find some tracks.
Right.
Which, by the way, we absolutely did because I waited to that part of the day. But they're not known for their patience, and they wanted us to show up.
Yep.
So they kept making more and more and more noise until we finally went and walked over there.
And like you said, we saw, man, baby tracks. There were baby tracks galore. I don't remember how many big actual adult tracks we would classify as adult tracks, but baby tracks, I guarantee we saw at least 20 or more as far as that goes. You know, just plains they could be. I got pictures of some of them. You know, and like you said, it's like they were anxious for us to come over to the other side of the road and walk up on that ridge line. And
yeah, we're so predictable. They know every time we come over there, we go walk through the playground, and then we go over and we check out the mega teepee, and we wander around a little bit, and then we come back again. So it's a fun time for them to wander around and observe us, and they know pretty much where we're going. They don't know exactly what path we're going to take. So that's another fun thing. Oh, we got to, we can't anticipate where to hide in advance. We have to move around. So, more practice for them being stealthy and quiet.
Oh, sure.
And yeah, they're really good at it.
And some of the boulders and the laydowns, as I was saying earlier there about some of the things we go through as researchers, it was almost like we were having to saddle up on a horse, to mount a horse, to step across logs that were 4 feet off the ground there, because in mine and your shape, we can't necessarily duck underneath them, but we had to crawl over them to get there. And then once we got there, there were, as I said, boulders the size of half of your house right there that they could just stand behind, and all of a sudden they would be gone. So it was really amazing scenery, but how great they were at this, because man, we looked hard. We're not rookies to this. We've been doing this, both of us, over 40 years. And man, I tried the quick turnaround. I tried doing the shot behind the back with the phone, see if there's anything behind us. And they were very, very in tune with what we were doing, but yet they didn't really give us that opportunity to get a visual. But when you have that kind of scenery that we had up there, that was it was a special thing. But to see a Bigfoot would have been, that I could definitively say was great, but if not, being up there in that area right there, and to learn, just how different they are than what these are that we have done, because their vantage point of watching you is way up high up there.
Yeah.
And down here.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of underbrush and stuff too. That's one thing people don't think about if they're not up here. These giant forests and stuff with these giant trees, if you're not right in the rainforest area where you've got the ferns and the moss and all that kind of stuff, we're in a drier area here. It's lodgepole pine forest.
Right.
You might be able to see a couple 100 yards through this timber before it's too far, and you can't make out anything beyond that. And with their vision, they can sit so far off watching you walk around. Even if you saw them and you started running, it would take you 20 minutes to get to where they're at.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're not going to cover no ground, no record speed of time, especially when most of it is 60 degrees to 80 degrees that you're walking. We're not going to make it. And man, of course, with them, that's one giant step, and so it was really one of those things to look at. But yet we did find tracks where they had stepped up the terrain. You could see where they had stepped into the terrain, and then that moss that was on those rocks and made it sometimes to where we would temporarily, not very badly, but lose our balance. We'd have to reshift to gain. I mean, the way they just went up those, and it would be 5 feet across there from where you had your next indention, where it was going up those side of those hills. So again, really, really something for me to experience. And then again, the tree pushes over. Rarely do you get a tree pushed over. I've had about 4 of those pushed over in my life in 40 years of Bigfoot hunting. We had those that second day, and one of them was when Erik went and looked. Erik has got such a great attitude of inquest. He's wanting to go to find out more, and has such good energy, and went over there and looked at it, and one of them had been cut. He said, oh, well, there's your reason it failed. No, that's not what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about, why did they quit cutting? There was so much firewood over there.
Yeah, that was the question in my mind too, because I went over there and looked at him with him, and he goes, Duke, this thing snapped off 4 feet up. And I went, what? That's a green tree. Let me go over there with you. And I looked at it and went, yeah, it had been cut through one side, back cut partway through the other side, and then they didn't do anything with it. And again, why cut the tree down? That whole area around it, there's big piles of dry timber that's been laying on the ground for years. If you want firewood, there you go. You don't need to cut a green tree down.
And there
so
was
it's
no
like somebody was
sawdust on
cutting a
those
tree
trees.
for some reason, and then somehow got interrupted and never finished it.
Yet, according to Erik, there was no sawdust around those trees, so it wasn't recent. Why did it choose that opportunity right there to fall when we had to be right
Walking
there?
up this trail here by the campsite. We're all sitting down there near the fire pit, and we heard a sound. And I saw this massive tree just come down. So I went and looked, and it didn't come out of the ground. It snapped off. So Duke, myself, we're gonna walk up. Hey, you're missing it. It's to the left, but we can start up there if you want. We can go around, actually. Gotta just keep going around because it's long. That sucker's at least 80 feet, I'd say. You'll see the snap off up here, actually. See it right there?
Yeah.
It's a trip, about 4 feet.
You stay there, film. I'll stand over here.
Okay.
Yeah. This has been cut.
That's true, huh?
Yep.
Wonder why they cut it part way and then just let it sit there like that.
Whatever. Wind took it down.
What a trip, yep.
So.
Oh well, that
No
ends that.
mystery there.
And then the second
No
one that
mystery.
we had, man, was just amazing. There wasn't any kind of cuts or anything else like that. It was just,
No.
I think, to me, it's just a show.
Well, the
of
second one, the first one's still possibly questionable. The second one really isn't, because me and Erik were both watching. There was a stand of 4 dead lodgepole pines all together, and one of them was shaking. If the wind's shaking them, not all of them will be shaking because they're right next to each other. They
Right.
grew together in a clump. There's only one of them shaking, and all of a sudden it goes over. Well, what just pushed over a 120-foot lodgepole pine? Erik wants to charge right up there and see, so he brings the camera up there, films it, comes back. Well, yeah, its root system was kind of shallow, but so was the other 3 that weren't
Right.
shaking. And it fell over, roots and all. Something pushed it over. And this is, again, like 75 yards from camp, like, what, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe?
Right. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, exactly right. And why didn't we hear other trees falling up the road during that time? There was a road that was right there that ran up the mountain right there, and where we were camping. Then there was also that little river that ran by. Why didn't we hear other trees falling up the road? Why was this just coincidentally almost directly across from our camp right there? Why didn't we hear the other trees falling? It didn't
Yeah,
happen.
why did it happen during the day when the weather wasn't bad? Because we've been up there when the weather's been absolutely miserable. High winds, terrible storms, no trees falling over.
Right.
But also what was cool is that one little area you took me to where you have that picture that you showed me prior to us going there of that one Bigfoot that you taken, I guess was earlier that year, where he's peeking up over that wood, and then there's a little baby down there.
Yep.
That?
Yep. Yeah,
And
I
that-
actually had walked right in between. Apparently that probably was a big female that was laying there behind the log watching me, because I walked right in between her and a younger female that I accidentally filmed and realized she was there. I was zooming in on this tertiary X structure, and Blaine Tyler pointed out and went, oh, there's one right there. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? So then I did the comparison shot for it and like, yeah, object not there. But apparently that's why Mom was giving me the scowl, because I was walking in between her and her daughter. I really appreciate the fact that she didn't rip my head off or anything at that point. But I didn't even notice she was there. I didn't notice any of the 3 of them were there at the time. I filmed all
exactly
the
where it is.
outside to get an extra.
I do things because I want to, not because I need to.
You guys are going
You're gonna see a big Sasquatch in a second here watching me.
video. We see that we barely paid any attention to, but when I was standing underneath it,
Right there.
I was sort of filming around it.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Did he move? It looked like he moved.
Joyce
and
from
there's
Bama Bigfoot is the one that found the big mama laying down there behind the log looking at me and pointed that out because she likes to give me PTSD. Showed it to somebody that's actually a photo analyst, right?
Right. And that was it was impossible to I thought he thought in his mind he probably thought I was trying to pull his leg, and he didn't tell me he was going to do this, but he analyzed it and said, no, that's a real picture. I was going to see if maybe you're trying to pull my leg or you photoshopped it or whatever. And he says, I did this, and this, whatever he did. And he says, that's a real picture. And I said, you could clearly see the two eyes and they were red. And so, you know, so I mean, but of course, you took me to that spot that when we were there, and I looked around, and from every angle I could to try to see, could this be some sort of pareidolia? I mean, it wasn't, but I'm trying to figure out, could it be? And there was
Same thing I do. People
no
send me these screen captures and go, Duke, you got this thing on this timestamp, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it looks like a Sasquatch. Next time I'm up there, I have to go to the exact same spot, same time of day, take a comparison shot, see if it's still there. If it's a trickle light or shadow or something, it'll still be there. If it isn't,
make sure
then, you know,
that you're kind to everyone. Safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Don't be mean to people if you don't have to be. Don't flip off the mountain giant. Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't punt the puck, would you? And for God's sake, whatever you do, do not hug the Wookiee.